This is Technomancer for 0 Point Fuel. I know it's been a few months since I posted, and I do apologize for that, but I've been doing so many experiments and things that aren't successful, or I have to do another experiment to verify, that it's just got too complicated to try to do video on everything I'm doing. So what I'm doing now is I'm working on a generator that has low drag. And I've had some success. This little generator here, which might not look like much, but because the coil orientation is at a right angle to the spinning magnetic field, it's not locked into that position where, as the coil is energized, it creates electromagnet that works in opposition to the spinning magnetic field. The way this is designed, this has box fan stators, and they're wound in between where the coils are actually wound this way. And you guys might have seen that in the QEG hybrid. But this generator here has magnets backed with steel, and that increases the magnetic field strength above the magnet that has the steel behind it. So it creates this nice sharp spoke shape off of this rotor here. And this generator here is making 40 volts. It has 12 coils and 6 north-south on 2 separate pieces here. It is working. The only issue with this type of device is you can't push the energy through it like you can a conventional generator. Conventional generator, the energy is forced through it, where this one, it's running around this ring. And it really doesn't have any need to go anywhere beyond that ring it's the field spinning in. So it will pump up capacitors. It works on a low resistive load. If you're using a bank of capacitors, you can charge that bank of capacitors with this type of generator. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but this field here, I'm exploiting this energy ring and pumping up capacitors with it, and it does it right now. It pumps it up no problem. Now if I hook this up to a battery, it will work, but it charges the battery very slow because of the resistive load of the battery. What we have to do is find a way to dump the energy that's being created from this non-load generator into a reservoir of supercapacitors, and then take the energy from there and dump it to something, or use it, depending on how big the energy well. With all these new supercapacitors, this is feasible to do. This one right here is, it creates spikes. It don't really create continuous energy. And the reason it does that is because the way this right here is lined up is not perfect. This is a very low torque, came out of a low torque AC motor, and it runs in a wave around this. So it's not like this one here, the way these coils are wound. This is a single phase, both sides. It outputs a single phase because this is a north, this is a south, this is a north. This is wound one direction, this is wound in opposite direction, and this is wound again in the same direction, which means these have to be balanced. You can't run like a three-phase situation on this. This has to work, it has to be even, an even number of coils, an even number of magnets, so that you can go north-south, 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 and wind these accordingly. So as the magnets flip, it goes from north to south, the phase remains the same. So it's basically scrubbing back and forth. So anyway, this little generator here, I'm going to make a rotor for it and use magnets. Well, it's got 36 positions on it, 36 positions for the magnetic field, okay? So as this makes one revolution, the magnetic field is flipped 36 times back and forth within this structure. That has to do with frequency. So some of the experiments I was doing, like if you people have looked at the QEG, I think it's a failure. I really do. And the only reason it's a failure is because the amount of speed you need on the rotor. You need that speed because you have a single bar running through that is flipping the poles. So every revolution is it's only flipping twice. If you want some energy, you have to flip that magnetic field enough times to create a strong field. This is going to get a new rotor, and it'll have 36 magnets around it, north, south, and then this could run at a lower RPM and create a strong field. Now, if you're not going to have magnets and you're going to use like a induction generator type situation, you have to find an armature where the alignment is good, like on a large motor. Okay, see this one right here, it's going to be wound. It's got 9 separations here on the rotor, which means I have to run 3-phase because it's not an even number. But this one is a completely different experiment where it'll have 1,000 feet on 1 phase, and on the other 2 phases I'm going to be experimenting with winding and shorting those other phases to allow the energy running through the ring to be increased by shorting, because when you have an induction generator, it will collapse. The field will collapse if you overtax it, or there's plenty of reasons why it'll collapse, but trust me, I ran this generator enough to know what it was like. This was a 3 horsepower motor used as an induction generator, and you've probably seen it in the cart motor videos. But because the way it was set up, the braces that held the stator in place were in the way from me winding it properly. So what I had to do is I'm building a frame that will work similar to this one, where I can adjust. If you see these bolts here, I can adjust the stator in and out, left, right, up and down, to position it perfect in this by adjusting these bolt positions here. So I have to do something similar on this because the way it's wound, I can only take up a small space in between where the coil is wound. I'm winding it in a unique way. I've put together 200 feet lengths, and I'm putting 5 of those together, and I'm winding all 5 wounds at the same time, and then they'll be connected together in a way that will let me increase how many winds I have, or the amperage, the size of the wire, by doubling them together. So this is a complete experiment right now on what it will take to drive with the pulse motor. Now on the pulse motor, I've got it apart and I'm switching back. North-south does make more torque, but it tends to cause the chips to get hot, and I can blow chips easy. It's creating a situation that makes torque, but it's also creating a lot of extra headaches because I have to be able to dump that back EMF. And right now I don't need to do that because these generators use such low drag. Then I'm switching it back to just a monopole, but it will run in sequence. 3 coils will energize at one time, and then it'll have 9 coils on it in pairs of 3. So 3 pairs firing at 3 separate times. That will create the continuous push you need, like a normal motor does, that doesn't pulse and then wait until the next magnet comes around to pulse again. That's why you don't get any torque out of a pulse motor. So with the sequential design, it is a continuous push through that position between the magnets. So, and then it's repeated over and over again. So I'm basically rebuilding that pulse motor to drive these types of generators that I'm working with. On the back of this motor here, I'm putting an optical encoder so that I can control the shorting of the other turns. It might only require 1, and I might be able to get 2 phases of energy out of this. But the main goal is to get 1 phase of energy at 2,000 volts out of this, so I can run it into a microwave transformer and step down to a usable voltage using off-the-shelf components. So that's kind of the idea. So I just wanted to inform you guys what's going on. Because I haven't posted in so long, you know, most of you probably thought I was dead. So I figured I would at least tell you what's going on. And I've got a lot of time to try to get this stuff done along with the new website. Basically, I'm working on graphics and trying to organize it in a way that will make more sense to a developer who is using my site as a resource tool. So that's kind of where we're at. And this is Technomancer for 0 Point Fuel signing out.